People fleeing, families separated, countries worried, more and more refugees. This is Moira,
Ruth, and Gratia.
Today we are talking about the Ukrainian war and what is happening to the refugees.
But what is a refugee?
A refugee is a person who had to leave their home country because of a conflict or prosecution. The exact definition of a refugee, according to Oxford Languages, is a person who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, prosecution, or natural disaster. Refugees are not allowed to be sent home if their home country isn't safe, and other countries have to let them in. It is because of this that lots of refugees have become citizens of their host country.
How many people left, and where are they now?
8,072,198 people have been registered as Ukrainian refugees in Europe. Poland, Germany, and the Czech Republic have taken the most refugees. In proportion to the size of the place, refugees are 4% of the Czech Republic's total population. 271,000 Ukrainian refugees have been admitted to the United States. 3 million border crossings have occurred so far. 140,834 of them have happened at the Ukrainian-Polish border. According to a study, the majority of people who have left are women over 35 with children, since men from 18 to 30 aren't allowed to leave. In Poland, the energy costs and prices have been going up, making it harder for Polish people to provide for themselves, let alone refugees. The Prime Minister says he wants Polish taxpayers to have to pay as little as possible for the next wave of refugees. Even harder for Ukrainian refugees, if they stay in their host country for 120 days, they have to pay for 50% of their living costs, 180 days, 75.
What are people's stories? How are they doing?
Soldiers have trauma due to the war. Even the toughest soldiers face some form of trauma due to war, but many of these people have never even been in combat before this war. Imagine the amount of trauma they are facing. A psychiatric hospital known as Pavlivka is taking in Ukrainian soldiers to give them some time before returning. These soldiers have an incredible level of trauma, with their effects including insomnia, flashbacks, and nightmares.
I heard about these people, sisters, that had to evacuate Ukraine. One sister said she would leave everything but her dog. So they brought their dog on a long journey to the US, but when they got there, their dog wasn't allowed to come in. The sisters went to other countries to get the dog vaccinated, and then finally came back with their dog to the US, and are now living there. The US won't let any dogs into the US without knowing they are vaccinated for rabies. What do you think about that? Imagine if it was your pet.
One family in Ukraine left as soon as they heard the war began. They are currently living in Poland. They are a family of 5. They waited 2 days to get into Poland and are now settled into an apartment near Chicago. They have no desire to return. No chance, we want to stay here, says the father of the three children who fled. Diana used to live in Ukraine. She was a language teacher in Kiev, but she had to flee Ukraine when the war started. She left behind her husband because she was going to fight in the war, and she gave birth to her child in Germany, where she fled to from Ukraine. I remember those days, says Diana sadly. She is referring to the time when she was still in Ukraine. There are lots of pictures in my memories. Although she has those memories, she says, I wish to return to Ukraine as soon as possible.
Are there any people left in Ukraine?
Some people stayed in the capital, Kiev, while some came back to the capital after being refugee, since the capital was not taken over by Russian forces. There was lots of damage everywhere but the capital, and no water or electricity outside of Kiev. According to an article titled "Life Without Power in Kiev, Ukraine" by the New York Times, Kiev is now a war-torn city struggling with shortages of electricity, running water, cell phone service, central heating, and internet. Power outages caused by Russia targeting power grids for Ukraine are impacting life in the capital. Changes such as survival kits in elevators and separate menus in restaurants and cafes for when there is no power are helping the people in Kiev live as close to normal as possible.
What is the future of of Ukrainian refugees.
More than 8 million refugees are scattered in Europe, the US, and beyond. With their homes destroyed, most Ukrainian refugees are wondering if they should go home at all. A survey in Germany said that 21% of Ukrainian refugees didn't intend to go home, 27% said they weren't sure, and only 6% said they were planned to return. In total, 81% of refugees hope to return to Ukraine one day, but will stay in their host countries for now. The experts say the want to go home will likely diminish as the war goes on.
Refugees have been having a horrible journey from fleeing Ukraine, either all the way to US or a border country. They have gone through many troubles to ensure their family's safety. We hope that they can go home and families and pets will be reunited again. Hopefully soon the war will be over. The soldiers will be thanked for their work. Ukrainian refugees helped back to Ukraine if they want to go back. In that Ukraine will be rebuilt safer, stronger, and a happy place for families to live. Thank you for listening. Moira.